that we could proclaim the excellencies of the one who has called us out of darkness into his marvelous light. So I love what God is doing here, because he's calling us out of darkness into light, and then he's sending us back into that same darkness as bearers of the light. The question is, how do I do that? And so I want to give you one very, very simple thing. It's a one-point talk. Pursue Christ. Let's make this very simple. Chase after Jesus. When you do, he'll do the work of changing you.
So first of all, welcome. And Kimberly, where's Kimberly? Raise your hand. Kimberly has a basket here, and if you'd like to say a few words about your organization, your company, give her your business card, and we'll pick one out today, and next month you can say a few words. Deanie Monkey was supposed to say a few words today about her company, but she texted me last night and said, I am sick with COVID, and I don't want to be there and infect anybody. So we'll get her another time to come up. So, Ken Klingerman, we have Ken Klingerman from Precinct 3. Where are you, Ken? Thank you for coming. Okay, any veterans here, please stand. Thank you. The Christian Business Luncheon Board, would you please stand? And how about first-time visitors? We have any first-time visitors? Thank you. Rib Tickler, for 3 months they've been feeding us. So Wesley and Catherine back there, thank you so much. And then, of course, our wonderful videographer, Janetta. Thank you, Janetta, for doing this every month. And so the videos from all of our speakers are on our website, so you can go look at any speaker anytime you want. So you know somebody like Mrs. Today, you can go on the website another week or so, it'll be on our website, and you can look up any of them. Diana Perez, where are you? All right. So next month, you can come up and say a few words about, what's the name of it? New Health MD? Thank you. We'll see you next month doing that. Thank you. Okay, we're going to request, we did a lot better. Thank you this month for all of those who RSVP'd. We're trying really hard to get everybody RSVP because we don't want anybody to go without food. And this time we had a lot of RSVPs, which we don't usually have. So thank you so much for doing that. And we appreciate, we don't charge for lunch, but we appreciate if you would be willing to donate. There should be bowls on the table, and we'd appreciate if you want to donate for lunch. Our lunches cost us $15. And then we have a new sponsor, Amanda Reyes. Where's Amanda? There she is. Our newest sponsor just signed up, Amanda Reyes Insurance. Thank you, Amanda. And if anybody wants to sponsor a luncheon, just let anybody on the board know, and we'll be happy to add you, and you can come up and say a few words about your organization, and we'll put you all on all the signs. Future speakers. Next month is Mary Burton. She's just a really popular speaker. She was awesome last time she was here. She's the executive director of the Tomball Pregnancy Center. In October, Dr. Scott Scrippling, who's one of the leading archaeologists probably in the world, and that's the Pastor's Appreciation Luncheon. So if you would invite your pastor, you're welcome to invite him. Leanne Kroon over here is she runs that whole luncheon for the pastors, so just let Leanne know and invite your pastors. We'd love to have them come. In November, we'll honor all the veterans. So we'll have veterans here, and we don't know the speaker yet, but we're working on that. We'll get a good one coming. And then in December, the Concordia Lutheran Chancel Choir will be entertaining us, as they do every year, and they're phenomenal. So don't miss December. And then in February, Laura Gallier is going to be speaking, and you will love her too. She's going to be great. Okay, what everybody's been waiting for, I'd like to introduce our speaker today. Skeet Alderson is a coach of the national champion Tomball Christian Warriors. They play in the faith-based homeschool football organization. National champions, that's amazing. When that team was first founded, about 10 years ago, something like that, one of my good friend's son was the quarterback for the first 2 years, and one of my other good friends, Jim Foote, was the quarterback coach. And Jim played for the Oilers. He backed up Dan Pastorini as a quarterback, and then he went to play for the Kansas City Chiefs. So we got a little tie to that team. It's great to see them with success. Skeet has 15 years of sales and sales leadership experience in the tech sector. He's currently VP of Enterprise Sales at Anaplan. He loves raising his family in what he calls the best small town in Texas. Absolutely. We must say the whole U.S., right? He and his wife, Leisha, have been married 22 years and have 5 children. He is passionate about helping raise up the next generation of Christ followers, and it's my pleasure to give you Skeet Alderson.
So I got a chance to chat some with Paul in advance, and one of the things he did was he shared with me the list of speakers you've had in the past. So I'm honored and to be here because most of the speakers you've had are going to be much more compelling than me and have done much cooler things than I have. So thank you for the chance to share with you. I want to talk a little bit about what it is to represent Christ in the workplace. That's kind of the general theme. I feel like God's given us in business a unique opportunity, an opportunity to impact people's lives in ways that we wouldn't have expected, an opportunity to be there at a moment where there's a need, and at a moment where there may be no one else around walking with Christ who's able to step in and meet that need. So I love business because of the unexpected nature of ministry opportunities that pop up. So as we get started, I'll introduce myself. This is me and my crew. There's Leisha. Jack over here on this side is our oldest. We just dropped him off in college in Missouri. That is painful. No one warned me that it would feel like a kick in the gut and leaving a piece of your heart in another location, but it is. We have Caden, the tall, skinny one, on the other side, and then Claire, Lila, and Jude. Leisha and I, as you said, we've been married 22 years. I was a good salesman there. I was able to secure an I do when I was still young and promising. Now I just am what I am. But at the moment, there were dreams and hopes. Most of them probably didn't come through, but she is gracious and loves me anyway. So this is our crew. We've been here in Tomball since 2006. We've loved raising our family here. It has been a great place to call home. In my time here in Tomball, I have worked in the tech sector and sales. I've also done local church ministry. I kind of back and forth in both worlds. I'll say this, what I love about the business environment is I get to be a Christian missionary undercover. When you work in pastoral ministry, people know you're a pastor. That's in your job title. And because of that, they treat you differently. But when you are just someone they're interacting with in business, they don't have their guard up against the gospel, and they don't give you kind of their filtered best version of their behavior. They're honest with you. So that's one of the things I love about the interactions I get to have with people in business. So as I said, I'm now a vice president of sales for a company called Anaplan. I've worked for a number of San Francisco-based software companies, which is always a bit of a culture shock for someone who grew up on a farm in Texas. But it's helped me understand how other people think and see the world and kind of broaden my horizons, but also create a lot of opportunities to share the gospel with people who have never heard it before, growing up in very different worlds, even though we're in the same country. We mentioned I'm here also as the head coach of the Tomball Christian Warriors. This is our varsity football and cheer team where we won our national championship in Panama City Beach, Florida last year. So Tomball Christian Warriors was founded in 2009 by a guy named Jack Fry. Now, not the Jack Fry that helped start this organization, his nephew. So that family's got a great tradition of naming their kids after family members, so it gets fun. When you go, which Jack Fry are we talking about? But Jack Fry founded the organization years ago, and it's continued to grow. We've had some great coaches throughout the years who've done a heck of a job. We're an all-volunteer organization, so no one gets a paycheck. I joke that after winning the national championship game, 17-0, I gave my defensive coordinator a raise. We tripled his salary. It continues to be zero. I'll probably double it next year, and it will also be zero, but it makes him feel better when I tell him that. It's a great group. I'll tell you about the organization. It's a homeschool support organization dedicated to helping young men and women grow up to maturity in the Christian faith, to have an impact on the world that honors Christ. That's what we're there for. Football and cheerleading are methods that we use to engage with these young people. And they are an environment that enables us to have an influence in their lives and to create a really unique moment for discipleship as we work with them through success and failure, through victory and defeat, and all of the pressure that we're all under in a competitive football environment. It is a high-pressure environment, which means the boys get to see us as coaches who we really are, which also means we'll have opportunities to apologize and come back and sort things out and restore relationships. All of the kinds of things I think you see also in life. Life is not roses all of the time. It's difficult, there's adversity, and we have to learn to respond in a Christ-honoring way, and we have to learn how to come back after the fact when we failed and try to restore relationships. So coaching has been a tremendous opportunity for discipleship. We strive to play high-quality football. We don't believe it's enough to just love Jesus. We want to love Jesus and be a great football team. And we're getting better and better every year. We have a number of boys playing collegiately at the next level. That was one of the hard parts for us, dropping our son off a little early in Missouri because he's playing Division II football. We only graduated 4 seniors off of this championship team, which means we're well loaded coming back. And those 4 boys are all playing at the next level. So this senior class is loaded with really good talent. We'll compete with the top private schools in the area, and then we'll also compete with kind of 3 and small 4A public schools outside of the Houston area. Every year we play for a national championship. We're not in the state playoff systems because we're not really part of the league as a homeschool team. So nationally there's about 40 teams like us of varying quality, but in that top tier of top 5 or 6 teams are very good programs, and we will meet them, and over a week period we'll actually play 2 games with about 48 hours of downtime between, which is really difficult on the body. We do a lot of work to recover and get the boys ready to go again. But at the end of that, we walked away with as national champions for the first time. It was an exciting run to have with a great group of young men. Yeah, there we go. So I want to talk for a moment about why we do this, and I think how it relates to your impact for Christ out in the marketplace. My hope today is simply to encourage you in your walk with Christ. I don't know that I have any extremely unique insights. I have my own set of struggles and failures. That'd be a long list. We could be here a while. But I hope to encourage you with a couple very simple, basic things. As a coach, that's what I find to be the most impactful thing we do, is teach our athletes the basics. So we drill proper technique because that's what helps you in the sport. I'll give you a great example. I'll come out for this one. So we teach tackling technique a lot. It's one of the hallmarks of our defense is we're very, very physical. Our boys are very aggressive. This is on film, but I say this to the parents, so I'm not concerned about it. We tell our athletes that violence solves problems on defense. Now, within the rules of the game, from the snap to the whistle. Now, after the play, help that kid up, pat him on the back. But within the rules of the game, the aggressor usually wins. This is how defense works. Offense, they think. Defense, you react and play with aggression. So we teach our boys proper tackling technique, one, because we want to do it safely, which means we want to keep their head out of it. We don't want the kids walking around with concussions and CTE. So we spend a lot of time teaching that. So we want to get the guy to the ground safely, reliably, and we want him to feel it. Because if he really feels it, the next time he comes near you, he might be a little skittish. We want that edge on him. So we teach a specific technique where the defender gets lower, and we want, at the highest, the impact with the shoulder at the thigh pads or below. The smaller the kid is, by the way, the lower that hit should be, because it's physics. If I tie your feet up, you can't run anymore, right? So we teach it, And it's amazing to watch when our smaller kids maybe come into the program. When I started coaching, I coached in the junior high, so we'd get a kid, right? He's a 6th grader. And the delta between a 6th grader and an 8th grader can be vast. Some of these boys in 8th grade, they're full-grown men. And some of these boys in 6th grade look very, very much like little boys. And so as we teach them the technique, it was always one of my just joys teaching was seeing these little guys in the game, full speed, roll up on a much bigger athlete, hit him around the shins, wrap him up, and get him on the ground. Because they realize they can do it. Because proper technique, executing the basics at speed in a real-life situation is how you have success. And my experience in the spiritual life is not so much that I've needed more in depth, is that I needed to return to the basics of the gospel, of Christ's love for me, His grace for me, His Spirit's presence in my life to help me not only have joy in my salvation, but experience victory over sin in my life daily. Those basics, that's what's driven success and victory in my walk with Christ. So my hope today is to return to basics with a couple of very simple things. I would tell you this first, is that I think work gets a bad rap. Work is a blessing. It's a gift from God. So if you think through biblical history, God gives a job to Adam before the fall. Sin comes in and kind of wrecks everything, and so work's not what it was intended to be, but it's a gift from God. It's a blessing. I would also point out that God gives Adam a job before He gives him a wife. Good sequence, just to know. Work is also a means of engaging in the world, of being creative and having an impact. The Apostle Paul was known as a man who worked as he supported his missionary journeys, who would share the good news of Jesus in the marketplace. So work is a means of ministry as well. And I believe it's our calling as Christians in business to work to lead not only professionally, but also pastorally. And I want to do both. And this is why. If I go to work every day at my job, which is leading a sales organization, selling to the largest companies in America, a specific set of software solutions, and all I do at work is talk about Jesus, I'm going to tell you what they're going to do to me. I will be fired. I have a job to do, and I need to do it well. And when I do the job well, and in a way that honors Christ, that's where the synergy happens in my ministry, in the lives of the people that I work with and that work for me becomes meaningful, if I'm able to do both. So we want to lead pastorally and professionally. In 1 Peter chapter 2, the scriptures tell us that we are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a people for God's possession, that we could proclaim the excellencies of the one who has called us out of darkness into His marvelous light. So I love what God is doing here, because He's calling us out of darkness into light, and then He's sending us back into that same darkness as bearers of the light, as people representing Him into the world. So we're simultaneously being transformed by God to represent Christ and His character, and by being sent by Him out into the world as His ambassador and representative. So God's made us to do this, and He's at work transforming us. The question is, how do I do that? And so I want to give you one very, very simple thing. It's a one-point talk. Pursue Christ. Let's make this very simple. Chase after Jesus. When you do, He'll do the work of changing you. He'll do the work of transformation. Romans chapter 12 tells us to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. And that's what God is doing in us. So we're being transformed. And when that transformation is deep and real and meaningful, it's apparent to everyone around us. When it's superficial and not legitimate, not authentic, that's also apparent to those around us. I've found it's really easy for me to be well-behaved on Sunday morning at church. Rather difficult getting 5 kids ready for church, I'll be honest. But let's be fair, my wife does that. And I say, kids, let's go. That's my task. But when we get there, it's awfully easy to be on my best behavior. It is very difficult if that transformation's not real, if that character change isn't deep and in our hearts, to put on a front 40, 50 hours a week with my coworkers. So I want to share an example with you of how not to do this. I always find that's actually one of the best ways to learn is by look at what not to do. This one I saw in a marketing case study that made me laugh. We're not familiar with Shreddies here in America because this is a Canadian cereal product. It's a lot like Chex, but not made from rice. Now, the people at Shreddies were struggling with sales. So they came up with a wonderful strategy, and I think you'll see this. Over here on the left is the traditional packaging of Shreddies. You can see it's a square-shaped cereal. Over here on the right, Shreddies is now a diamond shape. I just want everyone to let that marinate for a minute. Regular Shreddies, diamond Shreddies. We tracking? All right, if that's not clear enough, whoa, we got some stuff going on there, sorry. We now have diamond Shreddies. They made it even clearer. The squares are old and boring. You don't want that. But that diamond is exciting. Now, a certain element in the Canadian population felt like this was just too far, too fast. Shreddies is brilliant. And they introduced the combo pack, which has both square and diamond Shreddies. I don't know this marketing team, but I like them already. And guys, if anyone hasn't got the joke yet, the square and the diamond are the same. So, I love this example because it tells us what we don't want to see happen in our spiritual lives. New packaging, no change. What we want to see happen is that daily, in pursuit of Christ, we look more and more like Him. I want to be a person who rejoices when Jesus rejoices, who weeps when Jesus weeps, who serves where Jesus would serve, who loves as Jesus loves, who rejects sin as Jesus rejected sin. That's the kind of person I want to be. It doesn't really matter whether or not I can look like that for a short period of time. So here's my challenge. We have this transformation path in front of us if we're Christ followers, to be renewed, to be made new in the image of Christ. And if we're going to have an impact and a presence in our community, a presence in our workplace, a transformative, God-honoring, gospel-empowered presence, it's going to be if our lives first are being transformed by Jesus. Other people will see it. Now, we're going to also need to share the good news of Jesus with people. But all of that will happen naturally if we're chasing after Him. Here's the problem. I don't always do that very well. Sometimes I'm an absolute jerk. I don't want to be, but I am. I live in a high-pressure world where we win or lose. And there's a lot on the line for everyone involved. There's a lot on the line for my buyers. It's actually more important to them to make a good choice than it is for me in terms of it's a disproportionate impact to the buyer always versus to the seller. My team, their families, their kids' college funds, all of those things are on the line in a deal. And it's easy in that pressure to lose focus on how we treat one another, how we engage one another. Am I representing Christ well in this moment? Am I demonstrating trust in Christ when I think things could go poor financially? All of those things matter, and they're all obvious, but I don't hit a home run every time. I strike out. So what do we do then? I'll share two examples from the world of sports that I think are powerful. One, when we went to that national tournament, the first game we're playing a team out of Tulsa who had on their team the #1 recruit in Oklahoma. He's a 4-star defensive end. He's playing at OU. And so we obviously game planned for him. First possession on offense, we give the ball to our best athlete who's had a tremendous season for us. And he fumbles. And it's one of those when you watch the video back, like it doesn't even make sense. There wasn't a hit that jarred the ball loose. It was just a mistake. He was switching hands and he dropped the ball. It would be very easy for a young man, we're talking about 17-year-old young men, to put their head down and be done. That was the last significant mistake that kid made in 2 games. At the end of it, he was the MVP of the national championship because he let it go. He sorted it out. He experienced restoration. His coaches and teammates said, hey, we're good. Let's go. You experience the grace of your brothers in that moment, and that lifts you up, and you say, okay, I'm going to fight for them. We're going to go do this. We also watched this in basketball. It's been a few years, but in 2017, the University of North Carolina won the national championship in college basketball against Gonzaga. The Tomball connection is their best player was a Tomball kid. He was actually a homeschool kid from Tomball, Justin Jackson. He was a McDonald All-American in high school. Then he was an All-ACC player. He's also got an NBA championship from his time at Milwaukee. Justin went to church with us here in Tomball, so we knew his family. Phenomenal young man. One of my favorite moments is captured, well, no, I don't think I have it. That's okay. One of my favorite moments was captured as, to ice the game, Justin gets a breakaway and dunks the basketball on 3 guys. It was beautiful. The thing that made that North Carolina team interesting, the reason they won, is they led the nation in one specific statistic. It's called second chance points. So if you're not a basketball fan, second chance points happen after we have already shot. And then we got the offensive rebound, we reset and ran the offense again. And that's a hustle stat more than anything. That's an intensity stat more than anything. So when you look at it and we say a team led the nation in second chance points, that's how they won a championship. And here's my encouragement to you. Second chance points are going to be most of the points you score in your ministry to people through business. Mistakes will happen. You're going to goof up somehow. Apologize. If you've sinned against someone, confess it. Early in my career, I was a sales leader with a teleco company, and I was doing really well. I was 28, and I was in a role where all of my peers organizationally were at least 15 years older than me. And to make me even more arrogant at the time, I was outperforming them. We were leading the nation. It was exciting. It was fun. I had a good team, and things were going really, really well for us. And I remember being on a nationwide conference call with my leader and the 6 other people in my role. And one of the guys, who was probably 20 years older than me, he was really disrespectful to me. He was like, what is your deal? Like, we didn't even really know each other that well, but he decided that he was going to put the young guy in his place. And I did what all arrogant young men do. I lashed back at him, right? And I just ripped him. Because part of it is that was the culture of the organization. It wasn't healthy, it wasn't God-honoring, but it's the world we were living in. And I had a good friend who was on the call, who was in our sales operations team, catch me after, who was also a believer. He's like, Skeet, you bombed on that. And I was proud of myself, right? I was like, I put that guy in his place. I showed him who's who, right? He said, you need to go back to him and make it right. And so I call the guy up. I'm sure when he saw my caller ID, he thought, you know, we're going for round 2. And I just said, hey, I'm not going to make excuses. I was disrespectful. I wasn't professional. You know I'm a Christian. I didn't honor Christ. I'm sorry. And the guy says, I've been doing this for a long time, and I don't think anybody has ever called and said, I'm sorry. He goes, thank you for that. I really respect that. We didn't become best friends, okay? But I was able to recognize, because of a brother and his presence in my life, where I had missed the mark, and say, okay, I'm going to do the hard thing. I'm going to swallow some pride, and I'm going to try to get some second chance points here. Because the reality is, if I had left it there, I would never have an opportunity to share the gospel with that man. It would have been off the table. Imagine me trying to share the love of Jesus with a guy that I've just disrespected in front of all of his coworkers. Then I had the joy of calling my VP and asking on the next team call if I could say something publicly, so then publicly do the apology as well. If you sin publicly, repent publicly. So here's my encouragement. Chase after Jesus. And when you fall short, own it. Everyone already knows. It's not like we're hiding it. Confess your sin. Ask for grace. That is so rare, and it will have an impact in the world. And maybe, just maybe, God can use you at a moment where someone's in need and their heart is tender to the gospel to be the person that shares the good news with them. Thank you, guys. So, my understanding from Paul is that we're going to do some Q&A. So I'm an open book if you want to talk about software, about sales, about family, football, anything. Oh, trial and error. Great question. My parents love Jesus very much, and they raised us to do that. So it's a blessing when you've got parents that love the Lord and love you. And I don't think you realize, I was talking with Andy from Habitat, and he was telling me about some of the things they're doing with financial literacy and things like that. Some of these basic things, if you grow up in a good home with parents that love the Lord, you've got treasures that you're not even aware that you have until you start to make friends with people who didn't get that. And so I would say for me, starting with my folks really loving Jesus, seeking after him. With that said, I got a little wild in high school and early college, and the Lord had to grab me and bring me back. And then look, it hasn't been a perfect run since then, but it's been a good run. And so we keep seeking him. He keeps blessing us abundantly, more than we could imagine. Doesn't mean life's never hard. I mean, we've walked through difficulty like everyone else, but we just find that the Lord's present if you press into him. So, yeah. Any other questions? Go for it. That's a great question. It is. I grew up in South Texas, and it's not even weird down there. No, I'm just kidding. So there's no real story to it. I'm the youngest of three. My parents planned on having 2 children. They ran out of names. My dad got to name me, and this is what we got. That is on my birth certificate. And my siblings, by the way, are Scott and Amy. It's so standard. And then we've got, yeah.
What boundaries do you have to draw?
Oh, from a football perspective, so we don't have any boundaries. It's as far as a parent will travel, right? I would say this. We have some kids in our football program coming from the Katy area. They drive up every day. We had a kid from Missouri City last year. Imagine that trek. So most of our kids are kind of Spring to Cypress area. We're a homeschool team. We do have a couple of kids that play with us that are at private schools that are so small they don't have a program. Particularly that happens in junior high more than anything. But we're pretty much a homeschool program.
What facilities do you use to practice and play games?
Yeah, we're nomads, but we practice down at the Farm League, which is just south of Hooks Airport. Unless it rains, and then you might see us at Spring Creek Park. Go to Spring Creek Park on a rainy day if you want to watch practice. We'll be out there somewhere just trying to get some reps in.
How do you balance being a full-time professional with coaching?
I don't know that I do. I have learned one principle for time management, which is urgency creates efficiency. And that is helpful for me because I can't waste time. So during the season, I'm locked down on my schedule. I push. My team's aware. My leadership's aware that I do this. I would also say my wife is fully supportive. In fact, when I had been a coach for 5 years before I became the head coach in the junior high and then JV, I was a position coach. Position coach is the best job in football. You teach your kids technique. You encourage them. Somebody else does all the hard work. It's wonderful. I really enjoyed that. But when our last head coach stepped down, and there was a void, it was kind of something I was asked, would you consider this? And I was like, absolutely not. And I went home so proud, and I told my wife, I told him no. She goes, why? Why? We're going to be in this another 4 years. So she's very supportive. She carries a heavy load that enables it. So. Anybody want to talk about specific football schemes, what we do on defense, offense? Oh, yeah, so he's at Missouri Science and Tech, Missouri Science and Tech, it's a engineering school. They play Division II football in Rolla, Missouri, so just Missouri S&T, yep. Awesome. Is he done, or is he? That's right. Yeah, when we went and they said, we want your kid to graduate debt-free and they're going to have a good paying job, we were like, high five, we're in. Thing that we found when we got there that's just a blessing, there is a dorm across the street. It's technically not owned by the university. It's Christian men's housing. And so our son's staying there. It's a campus ministry, but the university considers that on campus, which at a public university, that we thought that was unique. And so we were really excited about that opportunity for him as well. Yeah, so what did your son study? Okay, so he's in aerospace. So he got his math skills from his mom. Awesome. Well, I'm going to hang around, so if you have a question that you didn't want to ask in front of anybody, I'll be here. But thank you guys so much.